This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now.
Well, good Tuesday morning and welcome to Open Line, everyone. Brian Callahan in the big chair this week. Numbers to call, of course, right off the bat, 273-5211, 709, of course, in the metro area. And long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, or if you prefer, 8626. And again, right off the top here, most importantly, as we're hearing in our news, just more urgency and breaking news. Major structure fire this morning in Portugal Cove, St. Philip's, here just on the outskirts of St. John's. Down at the ferry terminal, actually, and this is unfortunately, it involves the uber popular, great spot, Landings Eatery and Pub. So call came in around 7 a.m. this morning, local fire department, Torbay, St. John's, all surrounding fire departments, really, anyone within ear's reach or that could responded. It appears to have started at the rear of the business, and of course this is right down as you approach, in your approach or departure from the ferry terminal. So the ferry actually had almost docked there this morning, was about to dock, the Legionnaire, but was directed back by the fire department and officials in the area, saying that it would not have been a good time for the ferry to dock and people to be unloading, and also with the issues that they may need emergency service there. Or anyway, it sounds like a major precaution had to be taken in light of this. That ferry was directed back to Bell Island, so major disrupt there, of course, for sure, for work, appointments, coming to town for the day, trials and tribulations by residing on Bell Island, for sure. If it's not the ferry, it's something else. So this fire, very sad for that business. Major employer for the area, of course. Understand there's no injuries that we know of, and that's great. That's clearly the most important thing, always. And I understand the Wharf Road is closed, or is still closed now, and so a lot of work going on there too, beyond just the ferry operations. There's other work on vessels and stuff, I understand, or a vessel there on the breakwater. And of course, our own VOCM's Richard Duggan is en route to the area. I expect he's probably down around there by now to give us an on-the-spot lay of the land as it is occurring down there now, and tell us the status of the fire. I know that just before we came on the air here with the show, we had the Fire Commissioner Fred Hollett, first-hand knowledge, going right there with Russell Bowers and Jerry Lynn Mackey on your VOCM mornings, giving him an on-the-spot update himself. So I want to thank, not just Fred, we had the two Freds going here this morning. You had Fred Hollett, the Fire Commissioner, of course, but before him, the MHA for the area, for Conception Bay East, Bell Island, the Liberal MHA, Fred Hutton. The current MHA, of course, but former long-time journalist Fred Hutton, for putting his, thank him for putting his reporter's hat back on. He really sounded into it there this morning, Dave. Fred, I think he sounded like he was missing a little bit of this, but he flipped right back into action put his reporter's hat on for us this morning to provide some of the spot coverage, the early spot coverage of this fire in Portugal Cove, St. Philip's. And now, of course, the concern, right, the most recent concern is the heavy smoke that's billowing around down that area throughout the community. Now, I'm not down there personally, and I'm waiting, I suppose, any moment now for a call from Richard Duggan, and he's going to give us a little immediate update on the situation down there. But pretty bad fire. They were still battling it up until just before 9 o'clock. So if you know the area or don't, it's right there as you approach the ferry terminal to and from Bell Island. And so that's all been disruption down there this morning. And as I said, we'll await an update from Richard Duggan as to the very latest. Hopefully they can salvage something. You know, businesses, period, are up against it, not just this time of year, but with everything going on. It's a challenge, you know. It's trying to make ends meet, and make ends meet in the business realm is no easy task these days. Takes a lot of resilience, that's for sure. And Jerry Lynn Mackey there mentioned also as well, there's a crash there up on the Outer Ring Road. Let's see, just before Thorburn Road ramp, eastbound. So if you're coming, say, from the Stavanger area, or let's see, eastbound, no, if you're coming from the other area, if you're coming from, let's say, Thorburn, I don't know, let's say Paradise. If you're heading east on the Outer Ring Road, it's just before the Thorburn Road off-ramp. There's a crash there. And again, don't know all the details yet, but certainly any crash up on the Outer Ring, or as I like to call the Outer Ring Road, not good. So slow it down, keep an eye out, just try to drive safely around these things. I see people still whipping by these accident scenes while the first responders are trying to do their work. This morning, fire trucks came out of Harvey Road just as I was pulling by, and I had to say at least 4 or 5 cars just continued on, and the fire trucks had to actually wait before the cars went by before they could pull out. So yeah, always a reminder on not just the move over law, but just give first responders that berth. They are the priority on the road. And of course, if there was ever a day to call, make this your first day. This is the day to do it. March 10th, the date of the first ever phone call on a telephone, made in 1876, 150 years ago by the one and only Alexander Graham Bell. So to mark the occasion, expecting a flood of calls to celebrate. And just as I look at my board, there's Richard, Doug, and Dave. That's still some breaking news there. I'm going to take Richard on line 3. Richard, you're on the air. How's it looking down there now?
Yes, thank you, Brian. As I was driving down here to Portugal Cove, I heard the fire chief on your VOCM Mornings with Russell, and he was talking about the smoke warning for this area. And having just drove through this area now, I can tell you, yes, if you do have any sort of a pre-existing health condition, definitely get out of here because that smell of smoke is strong, especially as I was coming down from the Portugal Cove Road side of things. As soon as you hit a certain area here, Portugal Cove, you could really smell that smoke, even just in my car. And now I'm situated off to the side here now, looking at the firefighters dousing the flames, and you can see just the plumes of smoke coming up over the hills. And of course, there's a lot of homes situated there on that hillside overlooking Conception Bay. So I can only imagine, if that was my smell in the car, I can only imagine what the smell is like in those homes right now with all that smoke that's been coming up for close on about 2 hours here now.
Richard, which way is, just curious which way the smoke is blowing. Is it going one way, or is it sort of swirling around? So it's blowing up over the hillside. So that would be, I guess, going towards the if you're driving towards the east end of St. John's, towards the airport, it's moving in that direction. Okay, so it's away from the school there, up on more or less the other way. I think the school is up on the top of the hill there as you go out. Oh, it's not Witch Hazel, but my brain is not working here this morning. But anyway, it doesn't seem to be appearing more towards the airport, so eastward.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. And I'm watching now the firefighters are kind of up on the hillside, and they're dousing the roof from the hillside. I can see that from my vantage point now, they've got about 2 different streams of water. I could see active flames coming from one section of the roof there. In particular, there's a couple of areas there where I could see flames now. Actually, it all depends on which way the smoke is going. But the firefighters are actively trying to douse this blaze. But it has been ongoing now for just about 2 hours. We understand that the call first came in just after 7 o'clock this morning. So crew's still working on it here. Everything is, of course, at a standstill in terms of the ferry operations. The ferry is docked over on the Bell Island side of things now. And right now, if you look at where the lineup of traffic would be waiting for the lineup, it's all emergency vehicles, flashing lights. That's all you could see, that, and the, of course, plumes of smoke coming up over the hill. So that's the situation right now here in Portugal Cove. So
there's access-wise, if you're driving, clearly stay away from the area, I imagine, the main road and any of that area? Is there any access?
The main road itself going through Portugal Cove, you can go down pretty easily. There's no backlog of traffic, anything like that. But again, it's access to the hill going down into the cove that's completely blocked off there now. No one can get down there while the fire crews are working on the situation.
Gotcha. And just to confirm, it doesn't appear to be anyone was hurt in this, I think.
No, we were told by the fire chief earlier that the building was empty at the time that the fire broke out, and the owner was alerted to the alarm bell. So nobody was inside, and no injuries as far as we know.
Yeah, okay. Well, I suppose we'll have to wait for a while for a cause. Sad stuff. Really big, popular business down there. Jeez. Richard Duggan, thanks again. Richard, anything else comes up or that you think is pertinent and we need to know about right away, don't hesitate. We'll take your call first.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian.
All right. Thanks a lot. Richard Duggan, VOCM's Richard Duggan, the intrepid himself, flew right down there as soon as he walked into the office. Got him. Let's also take Fred Hutton, the MHA for Conception Bay East Bell Island, who put on his reporter's hat here this morning. Fred, it sounded just like old times. How you doing?
I'm not too bad, actually, but I'm just sitting here, Brian, looking across the Portugal Cove, the Cove, and looking at this very, very viable business go up in smoke, and I mean, I'll be very shocked, Brian, if there's anything left of this once they're finished. I heard Richard's description of what's going on. They've actually moved the aerial truck from St. John's Regional Fire Department down onto the lower wharf where people dock their boats, and they're attacking it there with the big ladder and the aerial trucks, trying to get down on top of it. This is a huge structure beyond the restaurant. If you've ever been in it, it's a large restaurant. It's below it, food processing facility as well. And the owner has spent a lot of money and time over the last couple of years getting that up and running, and they were producing locally made foods. It's not good.
Not at all. I think I heard you mention earlier, were just ate there, last night or the night before?
Yeah, so Friday night, my wife and my sister, we came down for supper. We frequently come down here. There's a couple of restaurants in the area, but we like to come here as well. And it was packed. We had to wait a couple minutes for them to clear a table so we could get in. They were full, and it usually is through the weekends and throughout the week as well. And people have lunch here. I mean, you've got hundreds of people lining up daily to get on the boat to go over to Bell Island. And I mean, there's restaurants on the other side too. But sometimes if they're waiting, they'll go in and eat. And just it's a place. I mean, I've met people there from away who heard about it, and they popped down, to eat, and plus this other business that's ongoing underneath. And there's a separate section that juts out, this used to be the fish plant, right?
Right.
But now it's a food processing facility, and the upstairs part is separate from that. That's a restaurant, the Landings Pub and Eatery.
Fred, I just wanted to, what's your understanding of why the Legionnaire had to turn around? Well, I mean, I think I heard an explanation, but it was about to dock and they sent her back to Bell Island.
Yep. So the dock, there's nothing happening with the wharf and the dock. That will all be fine at the end of this. But the area of, if anyone's familiar with it, Wharf Road is sort of that winding road that goes down where you line up to get on the ferry. And that's above the restaurant. You're literally looking down on it. And that's where they've set up most of the emergency equipment. And they've got a pumper truck up there from Portugal Cove, St. Philip's Fire Department's up there. The St. John's one is below. I think I heard Richard say as well, and I noticed earlier today, Torbay and Port Pooch Cove are here. There may be others from their volunteer fire departments, but they've called in there's probably 24 emergency vehicles here. Should mention as well that nobody was injured that we're aware of at this point. This happened. So at about 6 o'clock this morning, the first ferry run came across, and according to folks that I've talked to, the crew didn't notice anything. And if there was smoke coming from that building, you would see it.
Yeah.
It is an extremely clear morning. It's not overly windy, but the wind is pushing the smoke away from the water over these houses. So they didn't notice anything. As they were coming back, that's when the fire was called in, and Chief Hollett, then the fire chief out here in Portugal Cove, St. Philip's, called the captain and said, look, this is not a good idea for you folks to try to let 70 cars off this, off the ferry at this point in time. We can't deal with this. There's an active fire. And so they sent the boat back to Bell Island, and it's tied up there now and will be until this fire is out, because there's really only one way up. There is another road. You can go up to the left towards Somerton's Lane, but that's actually it's not ever used for traffic that's disembarking the ferry.
Gotcha.
So what's happening right now is that ferry is tied up, but the chief has told me that they will allow the ferry to dock if there's an emergency vehicle, like an ambulance that had to get somebody across. There's also, obviously, you could use a helicopter if you had to, but he said that it'd be no problem to have one or two vehicles come off if it was an ambulance.
Gotcha.
There's also always the potential that you can bring the Legionnaire to Long Pond, I was in touch with Marine Services as well at
Yes.
Transportation and Infrastructure, but they don't do cars. They just do walk-on, walk-off, like passenger traffic. But, I mean, I think that it looks like they're getting the upper hand on this fire now, but it's been burning since 7, and it's now 9:15. So for now, everybody who is hoping to get across from Bell Island or to go over, they're just going to have to wait. And it's actually, the traffic has dispersed a fair bit, but during the hour when kids were going to school, and I heard you mention to Richard about the school, it's nowhere impacting BG Cove Elementary at all. Not at all. No.
But there are these health concerns. Hey, anyone with that kind of breathing, respiratory, any kind of issues, they want to be aware.
Yep. Well, if anyone familiar with Portugal Cove, landings are sort of at the forefront next to the breakwater and the wharf for the ferry, and then behind it are all these little houses that are sort of nestled in the rocks, and the smoke is blowing right over the top of them, and through them, obviously.
Yeah.
And homes beyond that, up around Portugal Cove Road would be impacted as well. I'm sure you can smell this. I'm away from the wind blowing towards me, and I can still get the odd time I get a whiff of the fire.
Fred, a couple of minutes. I've got to get to a break, but you wanted to mention something about fire services for Bell Island.
Yeah, so I've been in touch with the mayor as well this morning. They're concerned about emergencies, and that's basically what I meant by that when I said to Dave, your producer, that just wanted to say that if there is an emergency on board or on Bell Island, they will be able to get across and they will be able to dock. But for now, the ferry is just going to hold tight. And I mean, I also was talking to somebody from the emergency room at the hospital on Bell Island, and the doctor who worked the overnight shift and was supposed to get off this morning and then get subbed out by the new doc coming in this morning. That person, the doctor over here, obviously didn't get on the ferry in time because it didn't land, and they'll just have to wait to swap out, I guess, later today at some point.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have a little chopper on hand, just on standby for little emergencies, but I don't know. Can we afford that?
Well, there is for absolute emergencies.
Absolutely.
This will likely get a few more hours, and there is always a helicopter service option, and there is the option to get anyone across on the ferry, and if they had to do a patient transfer, they'd be able to do that. But obviously the hospital's open on Bell Island, the emergency room doctor is still there, and the other staff, obviously. So we're good that way for now, and I think that within a few hours this will probably be under control, and they'll allow Wharf Road to reopen. But for now, it is, as Richard said, a very active fire, and there's no traffic coming and going from here at this point in time. That road is closed.
Devastating stuff. But as far as for the firefighters and first responders, there have been harsher days to fight a fire. So if there's any bright spot to any of this, and there really isn't very much, but for the hard-working firefighters down there and other first responders who are trying to contain the scene and get this under control, at least they have, better than worse conditions to do their work in. Yep. I'll just say that. Fred, thanks a lot, man. Yep.
And I agree with that. And I do want to say a shout out to the folks from Pooch Cove who showed up, and Torbay and the Portugal Cove St. Philip's Volunteer Fire Department. These folks are all volunteers, right? And then St. John's Regional are here as well. So this is a really concerted effort to help out here, and as it always is. And hats off to those folks who are rushing in when others are rushing out. I should also mention I spoke to the chief, and he had folks from his department in the building, and the smoke was so thick that he had to get them out. It was unsafe. That was in the early going. I didn't hear his interview. I apologize.
No, that's okay. And look, you said it. The volunteer firefighters don't think about this. Like it doesn't matter what you got going on. There's a fire. We go. Like it's not even a second thought. It's amazing how it's just instinctive. Yeah.
So shout out to them.
Yep, absolutely.
Thanks,
Fred, thanks for putting on the other hat today. Appreciate it. We'll see you back here sometime soon.
Okay, take care.
Take care. All right. Dave, let's take the first break of the morning, and then we still have, we got a caller, of course, there about the Bell Island Ferry, and we'll talk to Darrell about the Rothschild report, and whatever you want to talk about, there is no shortage. This, of course, difficult situation in Portugal Cove St. Philip's just adds to the pile of really big news that's going on these days. We'll get into some of it right after the break. All right, let's get her going right into it with join Darrell on line one. Darrell, you're on the air.
Oh, hi, Brian. How you doing today?
I'm pretty good. She's on wheels here, by. Never good to start the day with a fire like this, especially, businesses doing what they can to to survive these days. And then something like this. So, yeah, we're keeping a close eye on that, and that's top of mind. So I'm going to mention that periodically and probably more frequently than not, keep people an update. But just heard our reports on that. How about yourself?
Yeah. Oh, I'm doing good, thanks. I can't complain. No one listens anyhow, so you go with flow.
You're reading my line there, Daryl. Go ahead.
What I want to talk about today was that Rothschild report.
Yes, sir.
And this is what is mind-boggling to me is that that report costs the Newfoundland Labrador people, taxpayers of the province, $5 million.
$5.4 million to be exact. Yep.
Okay, 5.4. That's there you go, 5.4 million. And yet the ex-premier of the province, Premier Fury, got the right to not release it. And I got a big problem with that. And I think the Wacom government should look into the legalities of this because, I mean, if that was Premier Fury's report and he paid for it out of his own pocket, fine. But we paid for that report, and yet we're not entitled to get access to it.
Yeah.
I mean, where's accountability to with all this? If that's the case, then any premier that takes power, where they can do what they want and spend our money, and you're not entitled to know what you paid for. It's unacceptable.
You know, when I first saw the note from former Premier Fury to Premier Wacom, listing all these reasons why you should not release the report, whether it was cabinet confidence or the fact that it just is irrelevant anymore, it's outdated. Who cares? I want to see it. You want to see it?
Exactly.
I want to see it. The public wants to see it. It's almost $6 million of our money. And if it's irrelevant, even more the reason. Because what have we got to hide? And look, the first thing that came to my mind, and, I did okay in high school, but one thing, I'll never forget my Shakespeare. And the first line that came to mind when I saw that letter from Premier Fury was, "Methinks doth protest too much," if you're familiar with Hamlet.
I'm familiar with it, yeah.
Doth protest too much. It's almost a page and a half letter on, please, it screamed out to me, please don't release it. Why not? And look, if it's all about cabinet confidence, I know how cabinet confidence, it's a bit tangly, but there are expiry dates and all the rest of it. But look, the argument himself, the Premier may sort of, I think the former Premier sort of killed his own argument. You say it's irrelevant, but it's too important to release, but it's too secret and it's too important under cabinet confidence. And you can cite the Act all you want, but there's a little bit of a word called transparency here, and I can go down that road with the current Premier too, because if you want to talk about Dr. Des Whalen, and I mean, look, they could have got right out in front of that before. I mean, the current Premier talked ad nauseum about transparency, truth, honesty, all the rest of it. I'm not saying there's actually any dishonesty with the Des Whalen stuff, but why not just come out and do as he's already preached, practice what you preach. Transparency, communication. Just come out and say that this guy's, important advisor, and we need him, and on and on and on. Instead of, waiting for it to break in the news and then having to go before the cameras. And it might very well be that he's happy to debate this whole thing about Des Whalen because it takes our minds off all of the other massive issues, such as the MOU over Churchill Falls and all these other things that are going on. So he may be very content, the opposition may be very content to just, debate this whole Dr. Des Whalen thing. Look, and he also talked about how important he is and how credible he is and how, just overall a good person for that job. But also, he didn't fail to mention that lifelong Tory. Does that person get that job if he's not the lifelong Tory? I think the Premier Wacom even said himself, he's been a Tory longer than me, in the back rooms. And now he admits that he was with the transition team. That came out after the fact as well. That could have been said off the top. There are so many ways they could have got out in front of this, and it goes right back to the Rothschilds report. There's just too much secrecy in government. Come out and say it. They always know more than we do, and we got to wait for it to come out in dribs and drabs. And with this Rothschild report, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Former premiers don't often weigh into issues as well, but to write a big old letter to the current premier and say, it's irrelevant, but don't release it because it's still cabinet confidence. You just can't release it. Again, doth protest too much. Sorry for my rant.
And now, no. You summed it up good. You did a fantastic job there, summing up everything there. And not only that, when you get all the secrecy and no accountability, I mean, people's red flags go up.
That's right.
And then they wonder why, when it comes election time, that there's a low turnout at the polls, because people lose faith into the political mongering that's going on with all, don't matter what government's in power, they lose faith in it all because of what's happening. So, I mean, accountability, secrecy, I mean, you got to have accountability, and the secrecy, when I see secrecy, my red flags go up. Why is a secret? And
that's common. Absolutely. That's just a natural human response, right? I mean,
right. So why is it being secret? I won't say too much into it. I'll sort of watch what I say here, but I mean, but we're why is it secret? There's something not right behind the scenes, in my opinion.
I hate to say I don't mean to make light of what's going on in Portugal Cove, St. Phillips, but where there's smoke, there's a bit of fire. And let's face it. If there was nothing. If there were no negative connotations to it, you have to believe it. Just to say it's a cabinet document, don't erase it, and to even go through the lengths to write such a lengthy letter, to almost say please in all caps with a few exclamation points, don't release it. Darrell, I'm right up to the break. Final comment?
Yeah, no, like I said, I think I like to hear that the opposition party, John Hogan, he's a lawyer by trade. I like for him to come on your show and explain this, even though he wasn't the premier at the time. But I mean, and not only that, I think Tony Wakeham should get some legal advice. And to me, it don't sound legal. It's just mind-boggling. And hopefully, you'll keep this story continuing, and hopefully, maybe with a bit of hope, I like to see some answers come out of this.
And just for the record, Liberal leader John Hogan did say, if the current Premier Wakeham wants a review of government finances, he said, go commission your own report. Well, that's still fine, but it begs the question, and it ignores the question of, again, it deflects from the actual issue. You want to make it political rather than have to face it yourself. And he was a minister in the government that commissioned the Rothschilds. So, and he said, I'm not going to say cabinet documents should be released. This is his quote. I'm never going to ask the current premier to release cabinet documents. And that just leaves it open-ended. It's just a wishy-washy kind of response, in my opinion. But Mr. Hogan is more than welcome to call the show and make his argument right here. Well,
they've been chirping and chiming about the present government now on issues. So, but like you just said, he evaded the question. Like, tell them to do their own consulting and whatever when it comes to finance. He didn't answer the question. The question is, can that Rothschild report should be released to the province of Newfoundland and Labrador? And if he gets on there, ask him that direct question. Don't wish-wash. Yes or no.
And as you said, right? I mean, longer it doesn't. It spurs conspiracy theories. Speculation. What was in it? What was going to be sold off? What shouldn't? What were we supposed to do? It may very well inform our situation down the road. Who knows if it's irrelevant? But anyway, Darrell, sorry about that. Thanks very much. By the way, Jim Dinn, the NDP leader, also called for it to be made public. I should mention that as well. So says
yes, so he did.
Yeah, people of the province own resources, he said, and he's not wrong there. Thanks, Darrell, for the call.
No. All right, thanks, Brian, and keep up the great work you're doing, and all the best to you and staff at VOCM and your listening audience, and have a great finish to your day.
Always appreciate it, Darrell. Thanks for the positivity. Take care.
Okay, you as well. Thanks.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
All right, let's take that break. Couple of minutes over. My apologies. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the program for this Tuesday. Let's go to caller on line number 4 with an update on that accident on the Outer Ring Road. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
How are you this morning?
Good. So far, what are you seeing?
Well, the main exit you were talking about is cleared up, but just as you comes off the Paradise exit there's a car with the nose down in the median and arse was kind of stuck up in the lane, so people want to be careful not to get into that, you know.
Yeah, just tell me again exactly where that is.
Right as soon as it comes off top of the road, off ramp there.
Oh, so you're coming down into Paradise?
Yeah.
Okay. Going westbound, eastbound?
Going eastbound.
Okay, so you're heading.
And once you get past that now, once you get past Thorburn Road, it's smooth sailing, but it's slow going between Paradise and Thorburn Road, right?
Yep, those little things. I tell you, just yesterday morning came in here and there was a car just broke down. No lights, no nothing on, right here at the intersection on Ladysmith and Kenmount. And you had to lock up with. There's no notice. There were no lights left on it. Now, I mean, you go, okay, why don't they have their flashers or something? Maybe the battery's absolutely completely demolished and dead. Who knows? But to just leave it there. But I mean, it's a small car too. Wouldn't take a lot to push that to the side, but instead it was left right smack dab in the lane, and you wouldn't know coming upon it. And it was just like. There's at least 5 or 6 hit and misses there, or near misses, I should say. Okay, so right off that ramp as you come off Paradise, off tops of the road into Paradise, eastbound.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, That's a great heads up. Thanks a lot for that. Appreciate it.
No sweat. And good. I'd like to put my hats off to the boys down there in the cold this morning, fighting that fire. God love them.
Are you in the?
Hopefully they get it all under control.
Just wondering, you're not a firefighter yourself, are you, or volunteer?
No. I've done my MED course. I did a bit of firefighting before I was off on the boats, but other than that,
yeah, you can. You got appreciation for it.
Oh, geez, yes, sir. Absolutely.
Deadly. All right, thanks for the call.
Right,
drive safely.
No problem.
Okay, right live.
Thank you.
The OCM cares. Right on. Okay, let's go right to Verna for a little update or related story, possibly. The Bell Island Ferry. Verna, you're on the air. Verna, are you there? Dave, I got the line.
Sorry, it's a very sad day for the landing, for sure.
Yes, Verna, go right ahead. Sorry. Yeah, go right ahead.
I'm calling in regards to the ferry service, and Mr. Hutton was in the house yesterday, and he put out a petition so that when the Legionnaire has to go for its refit, that the veteran could come here, and because the Chematic would be available for Fogo. And in regards to it, because of the traffic, and now the Astron, we don't know where that's gone. That went out, but we don't know where it's at. There's been no update since the 9th. We don't know where it's at, what's going on. Again, communication lack of. So Mr. Petton did get on and reply to Mr. Hutton. And he said, I realize you're concerned about Bell Island, but it's not only that community that requires the big boat. The first thing comes to my mind is Fogo. Again, competing one community against the other. Stop it, please. And he says, you don't have to worry about the replacement vessel that's coming. It will be big enough for the traffic and the vehicles. If it's too big, it will not be able to be used on Bell Island. So I hope, and he said, and again, I wouldn't know anything till the end of March. I hope that Mr. Petton is smart enough to take measurements and know that this boat is not going to be feasible for everywhere, so don't bring it in. Because if it can't be a refit replacement, what good is it going to do?
Yeah.
And in regards to him saying that, it's, I don't want one community against the other. Every community deserves and needs. We aren't asking for our wants. We're asking for our needs for the ferry service. And in regards to this boat, if they do send it and it doesn't fit, again, what we're going to be up against is when the Legionnaire came here. They had the Legionnaire come, but it didn't fit the jog for Portugal Cove. We waited a whole year without that boat. And then they said that it was the mooring, the magnetic, I don't know if you recall that, it couldn't operate without the mooring.
Yes, absolutely, I remember that.
Force.
Yep, the infrastructure
that never ever got installed in Portugal Cove. That is in the White Hills, rotted. So I think it was 2.5 million or 5 million that they spent on that, and the magnets never ever gets used in Bell Island because it's not operationable. So was it thought out? No. And, I mean, we've got to stop and think about what is needed for this service, and the less that the people do not take heed to what they're saying, competing one community against the other, because as long as the communities are all together, the government, the management of the transportation have to be accountable. Yeah. They have to communicate to what's going on instead of the people putting one community against the other. Oh, well, they're getting this, they want that. That's what the government wants, to take the focus off of them. It's time the focus get on them. They are accountable. They should be accountable. We had big issues with communication previously, and we still got communication big issues.
And Verna, I'm with you 100%. Rather than the mayors swiping at each other in the media, that can all be avoided in just professional, private meetings. And I say private in the sense of some of these things have to talk behind closed doors so they can work these things out, because not everybody has a grasp of the full understanding. I mean, the province put out that promise of 4 new vessels, procurement of 4 new vessels, 3 to be built in this province to replace all our aging ferries. And of course, that one swing vessel, now that was back in December. And I do know, best I can tell you on the Astron, Verna, is that the last I saw and the last location, and I'm even doing a real-time search here now, was in dry dock here in St. John's. But anyone can update me on that. That was as of late last year, so maybe early January. It's still under contract till the end of this month, I think, March 31st, 2026.
You are correct. Yes, the Astron, but the thing is, it's not giving no location now. The GPS is off of it.
I can't find it either. Now,
but I live in the middle of Conception Bay, on the back of the island, and I seen it going out. So
when was that? How long ago?
Is on its way. That was yesterday morning.
The Astron?
Rumors have it, yes. Rumors have it, it's on its way to Fogo. That's rumors.
Well,
no communication about it.
There should be no rumors. There should be just, where is it going? I mean, it's not like you can hide the Astron.
But they can if they. What tracking do you have if they shut the system off?
Well, visually, we'd all know where it is, and there's no reason. I mean, look,
and I said, that's what we've seen it. We thought it was coming here. No, it kept continuing going. Where it's gone, don't know.
Well, a fulsome.
And like I say, we only need communication and answers.
Agreed.
And whether it's good answers or bad answers, we need answers. This is in regards to us people living. Not and existing with our essential requirements. Not frills, because now our boat, the last boat, is 9:30 in the night from Portugal Cove. Shut up, put up, do what you got to do.
Yeah,
our boat used to be 20 to 11. Now, oh no, we put this boat here and it can't run any later than this time because due to hours of rest, we don't have enough crew to operate this. Well, do you see any advertisement in regards to the transportation infrastructure that we are hiring, that we will pay to qualify people to work for us because we need you?
You know what? There's a public portal there for the government on those positions that are available or being sought. I'm going to have a look later. I haven't had a chance today, but because just with this phone call. But it is worth having a look to see what kind of requests, not just for proposals for vessels, but for people to service them and operate them. Verna, how often do you go back and forth?
Pretty well every other day. I used to be a commuter myself, but I'm semi-retired. But in regards to, it's not a lack of workers. It's a lack of people not wanting to work these jobs. And you realize that the Legionnaire, that has different tickets.
Yep.
And you have different qualifications for that. So now what they're telling us, we cannot have an enhanced. And what an enhanced would do would put 2 crews on the boat so that the crews are getting their breaks. But the boat is still running because the other crew takes over. Right. But they're telling us now they do not have enough, quote, captains and engineers because they've got to be specially qualified. Well, isn't it enough time to have these captains with their extra tickets paid for by the government, because this is a service the government is providing, and they should have them services and the qualifications to do it.
Verna,
and we have 3 boats tied up.
I hear you loud and clear. I'm right past the break, but this
Thank you.
the Bell Island Ferry Service, Oh my God! I only dream of the day that this story. Look, since I've been a journalist 30 years, it's just it's never ending. How we can't just solve that issue and somehow make it just somewhat tenable so that people can.
And it's not only Fogo. It's not only Bell Island. It's Fogo,
Yes,
Change
of course.
Islands.
Yep.
It's everywhere.
But it's a ripple effect,
and
right?
As the communities, we have to join together and make the government of transportation infrastructure accountable. And Mr. Pettin, I hope you're listening, and I hope you really think that, okay, she made a good point. Is this boat suitable for all areas for the swing vessel? Because if it's not, we can't take it.
Thank you, Verna.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks. All right.
Bye now.
Let's take the break. Right back with Sarah talking about self-managed home care workers right after the break. Back to back to the program. Welcome back, and let's go to line 3. And Sarah, you are on the air.
Hi,
Good morning.
This is Sarah King. Hi, I called in last week to talk about self-managed home care workers and the difference in pay between us and those that work for agencies. And I was happy to hear Ms. Gambin Walsh on yesterday talking about it.
Yes.
And I just wanted to talk a little bit more about it.
She had some very first-hand experience herself as well, too. So always helps to have a member in that position, hey, like who can actually speak to it firsthand.
Yes, and she, cause she comes from the caregiver role, whereas I come from, I'm the one that she would maybe hire.
Right.
So 2 different perspectives, but, she understands that if you don't pay people properly, you're not going to find people to do the job, right?
Correct. With any yes, with any profession.
Exactly. So just so your listeners understand, so the difference between self-managed home care workers and agency workers is that a self-managed home care worker is hired by the caregiver or family or maybe the individual directly, and all of whatever it takes to get the person hired, they take care of. And the rate of pay it's all coming from the same pot of money as the agency workers. And the difference, according to government, so I have a letter in front of me that Mr. Hogan sent me January 2025 saying that the requirements that agencies have that makes it so that they can give more money per hour is a first aid certification, medical clearance, tuberculin testing, reference checks, and a certificate of contact. None of those things are extreme. None of those things are difficult to get, and none of those say that there's an expectation of advanced training. There's not even a grade 12 diploma required. And then there's no expectation of training after that. So when I get hired by a client, they train me to work with them.
Right.
Right? Or their family members.
There's no program that you go and do. The private agency trains himself.
No.
Yeah.
Exactly. Whereas the agencies, I have clients. I have one client, his other workers also work for an agency. And so we're working for the same client, doing the same job, and we're making 2 different rates of pay. And I know for a fact that person, those other workers didn't necessarily get any additional training to work in the job.
Yeah,
they might have had a couple of hours of something. But then, I have a 2-year college diploma, and not that, it's not a requirement of the job, so that's fine. But an agency worker does not mean that they're better qualified. So that's all I want to say on that. And then also, I've been asking government for answers, right? Trying to figure this out. And I put in an access to information request to the Ministry of Health and Community Services, and it came back with nothing. We were told in February 2025 that the issue was under review. The Ministry of Health and Community Services didn't have anything to pass on in that access to information request, and they told us to ask the seniors department. So I did put it in as a seniors department request, but I thought that was awfully strange, so I emailed my contact at the Seniors Advocacy and asked them about it, and they were told by government that home care was moved under the Department of Seniors and so it's no longer under Health and Community Services, which means there's a disconnect in the communication, right? I'm trying to get information, and how long have I been trying to get information from the wrong people?
And it can take you forever to get directed in the right way, because how do you know what's been moved under what envelope, right? Or under umbrella?
Exactly. If I hadn't asked the Seniors Advocacy Office about it, I wouldn't know, right?
Absolutely.
And that's only because in the past I've emailed them about the issue, because seniors and persons with disabilities, they're both in this home care realm. So I just wanted to make sure that they were aware that there was a discrepancy, and asking, like, what can you do to further this along? So I had that contact, so I figured I'd email them, like, why is the government saying send an email to, or ask the seniors department about it?
Yeah. And sometimes, in the media realm, you send a request like that and you're not aware that it's changed. You don't even get a response sometimes. And I'm not talking about any particular level of government or communication. I'm just talking about across the broad spectrum. In many cases, it won't be forwarded on. It's not my, say, ballywick, as we say, so I'm just moving on. Somebody has to take the time to respond and explain it to you. And these days, people will just say, that's above my pay grade. And speaking of all of that pay grade, it's a recipe for disaster to have people in the same realm, same workplace, working, doing the same jobs. Let's just look at the nurses and what happened with private, and what is going on with private agency nurses, and nurses being paid out of the public purse. You just having that equality, it just becomes, there may not be any kind of toxicity in your workplace, but that can create it.
Yeah, and I've talked to many other self-managed home care workers, and they're angry, especially with the recent, minimum wage increase. Between October 2023 and April 2024, so Ms. Gambon-Walsh, she mentioned that the Liberal government did give the self-managed home care workers a bump in pay at some point. So that was in 2023. We were given a raise to be equal with agency workers. So from October 2023 until April 2024, we were making the same amount.
And then it went off the rails.
Then, why not now?
Yep. Only because, Sarah, I'm right on the top of the hour for the news, so I've really got to go. Look, keep it alive. I know you called last week. You called this week. You can call whenever. We need to keep this on the front burner, not just for this particular group of work of career and health professional, but for all of them, for all across. And it just goes to a larger issue of, communication, transparency, and acting on things that are fair. Thanks for your call.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Dave, right to the news, and then we're back with the president of the Teachers Association, Dale Lamb, after the news. And welcome back to the program for this Tuesday. Thanks, Brian Medora. Keep an eye on that fire, of course, down in Portugal Cove, St. Phillips, and have any updates as they become available. Let's go right to line number one, and the president of the Newfoundland and Labrador Teachers Association, President Dale Lamb, you're on the air.
Good morning, Brian. How are you today?
Good morning. Thanks for making time for the show today.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Well, I appreciate it. There is, can't help but think, the all of us slogan that the Tories had, and we're hearing more and more different organizations feeling, for lack of a better term, left out. Explain.
You're absolutely right there, Brian. In a speech, that was touted for all of us, teachers and teaching learning assistants certainly felt left out. There was zero mention of teachers and zero commitment to education. So the speech from the throne not only gives an opportunity for the leadership of the province to speak to their future commitments, but also to acknowledge the citizens that are contributing to their overall goals.
Yeah, and so what specifically, is it just that there was the specifics of it and the mention of education? Was it the lack of how many times it was mentioned? Or, just because I was a little weary at first because, yes, the budget speech is this big pronouncement, this formal do and all the rest of it. There could always be talks and deeper discussions going on with the union or with the department and the minister and that sort of thing, but that's not happening either?
And what I'll say to that is that the lack of recognition of teachers and educators was certainly, very profound. But the speech from the throne only left us with 2 sentences about education, which wasn't reflective of conversations that we've had and promises that were made by our current government. We have had conversations. The Premier himself, in a meeting with our members and with myself, stated that education is an investment, not an expense. So to hear a speech from the throne where the main issues like complex class compositions, our daily incidences of violence, the teacher and student assistance shortages that exist right now, and the inadequate resources that we have in our workplace was certainly disappointing to hear that we aren't factored in right now into their overall plan.
Yeah, is it just the optics though of the as you said, just a couple of sentences? So I just want to be clear, to give it the proper due that are there good communications going on between your association and the government, the minister? I mean, it's a new minister in a new position, lots of stuff to get up to speed on, as you know. Not that Paul Dinn the minister hasn't been on top of this before. I find it a fascinating dynamic that his brother used to be the president of the NLTA and is now on the opposite side of the house, but that's a whole other kettle of fish there. Are the issues being even discussed quietly in any realm?
Yeah, yes, they are being discussed. There has been positive relationship there with the Minister of Education. He's been responsive to calls for information. But having said that, government is now about 140 days in, and we haven't seen anything actionable. They're very easy things that were promised in the election that could be actioned, but they're not yet. So it's time now for us to see that commitment and the follow through that government can provide.
Such as what? What would be your number one? I mean, safety in the schools seems to be top of mind for me, but
Yeah, safety in schools, our work conditions. I mean, work conditions for teachers, they're the learning conditions for our province's students. And the fact that, we didn't see any actionable statements there from the speech from the throne, I think it's very significant because we're all concerned about safety, because that safety is, what will keep teachers in the profession, but overall it's what, fulfills their obligation to their stated obligation of safer communities. So, not to see any action, not to see any resourcing spoken to there. I'm waiting on the budget and waiting on collective bargaining to see how that's all going to unfold, to see the words that they're stating being put into action.
Yeah, when you say the word work, that's a pretty big word these days. Work isn't the kind of work that they used to do. And again, I may say this ad nauseum for some people, but I have a daughter in grade 12 graduating this year. And so, I get firsthand updates on how some teachers handle it better than others. I'll just put it that way. And so, it's a navigation for not just for teachers, for students too, and it's for everybody in that. I mean, I don't need to tell you, Dale, that the atmosphere and the has changed inside the classroom, inside schools, for all of us. And I don't want to link the two too directly, but when you look at what happened in Tumbler Ridge, I'm sorry for anyone to look at that and say, well, that can't happen here. And now to find out that OpenAI played a larger part than we all ever knew, that the family of one of the young girls who was shot in Tumbler Ridge, they're now launching a lawsuit against the ChatGPT, OpenAI, and all of these issues that came up there and the fact that it was all being used and it was all out there. I mean, your mind can't help but wonder if that's happening in other schools and if there are other kids, exposed to that kind of stuff. And it's a whole other learning curve right there.
And you are right there, Brian, in what you're stating. Like Tumbler Ridge was, something that impacted our province's teachers significantly, just because, any time a school is impacted in that way by violence, it causes you to reflect. And the fact that it happened on a national scale was even more, burdensome in our minds, and we sent our feelings to the educators in British Columbia. But what government is failing to recognize is that education should be a priority in the upcoming budget and when we have other actions moving forward, because the future of the province really depends on it. We're talking about recruitment and retention issues across all sectors, and where do movements start? Starts in the education system. So we do need definitely more stated commitment and more follow-through. But what you're referencing there is school safety. We definitely need to see tangible, actionable items carried forward in order to feel that security and support from our current government.
Yeah, and every time I know the education is the important part, but these days I just can't help drop her off at the school and see the masses of people going in there and just, always hoping that safety is the number one priority. And I just want to be clear, too. So you said there are discussions going on with government. So, some people might look at this and say, it was a shot across the bow to nail government for only a fleeting mention of education in the budget, whereas they may still be doing some pretty hefty work. And I only say that because, some say, well, the unions, that they have to press government and have to keep them on their toes, especially with the budget being crafted as we speak. So, was that more or less just to make sure that they know that you're watching? Because I know the language, I'm just trying to call it, but the language that you used at the time, you said you were insulted by the virtual silence from government on education. So is that across the board, or was it just this particular issue with the budget throne speech?
No, it's insulting. As I mentioned already, like your speech from the throne, that is a real state of commitment and an acknowledgement. It's not just, how they're going to move forward as government, but it's acknowledgement of the work that is being done. Sure. And when you get 2 to 3 sentences, one of those being improved math and reading initiatives, but how are teachers able to follow through on that if the working conditions remain the same? That class complexity, and you made reference to it earlier, it's definitely more complex. Things are definitely more difficult now in our classroom, and we have big class sizes, and that needs to be addressed. So, we need to look at how those classes are composed, but also, I'm hearing stories of, upwards of 40 people in a class in high school, and previous government, they did manage to reduce some class sizes in grade 1 to 9 English, but our French immersion classes, and creating that opportunity for our public and our youth of learning a second language, they're still the same. So, we need to see that stated commitment. We need to see how government's going to move forward, and they have had ample opportunity. So we'll be watching closely to make sure that those opportunities are availed of. Yeah,
and I imagine watching closely means the budget. Expecting more than just 3 lines, I imagine. I would, hope that, based on conversations, I hope the conversations that we've had where there has been a recognition of class complexity and the changing work environment, I hope that comes to fruition in how they address things in education. I'm hoping that the 2 to 3 lines were based on a time limit and not based on the fact that we're not being thought of. Is there, just before I let you go, Dale, is there any one thing specifically that you've had a serious discussion with government you're fully expecting to them commit to in the budget? And the class size and composition is something that we have spoken of as it relates to school violence. So we have had discussions about school violence, and we need to, gather our own data to provide the government, but class size and composition is something that we have been preaching and speaking to, and conversations have taken place. Fantastic, Dale. Thanks for the update. Anytime, lines are open for you for sure. All right. Thank you very much, Brian. You're doing fantastic work there. Thanks. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye. All right. That's Dale Lamb, the president of NLTA. Let's take that break, Dave. Come right back with caller wants to talk about World Cup tickets right after the break. And welcome back to the program. Dave, where are we going? I'm going to line... Putting his finger up in the air saying 1 second. And 3, 2... 1. Also, by the way, I'm just going to try to reconnect with Richard Duggan, of course, who's down in Portugal Cove, St. Philip's. Keeping an eye, as we mentioned, I know you've heard in the news, but again, the fire at Landings Eatery and Pub that is down there, it's going to be really... That's devastating. That's a big blow for any business, but especially down there. Such a popular spot, too. Let's go to line number 2, and Barbara, you're on the air. Good morning, Barbara.
Good morning, Brian.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Barbara, I think sorry, I was going to say, I think we chatted before about Burgeo and the protected areas, but did you want to elaborate on that this morning?
Well, I basically just wanted to speak to Premier Wakeham's comments about, hoping to or expecting Newfoundland Labrador to become a tourist capital of Canada. Mm-hmm. And to do that through working with Marine Atlantic on increased capacity and extending the tourist season. And that's a strong vision. But, if you think about that, if we're really serious about it, we have to do at least two things. First of all, we have to protect the natural assets that tourism depends on. And second, we have to recognize that the province cannot build that vision alone financially. And I'll use Grossmoran as my example. Grossmoran didn't become a global destination because the province funded everything. It became what it is because it's part of Canada's national park system. And that brings, federal investments, it brings infrastructure, it brings marketing costs, and basically long-term stability for anyone who's living in the area. And the South Coast, in particular Sandbanks Park and around the coastal habitat stewardship boundaries, the fjords and the outer islands and, the beaches that we have, is a marine landscape that's very unique. So a national conservation area of some sort can really what Grossmoran has done for, the West Coast. It extends a tourist corridor, I would call it, from the north to the south with all points in between.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Great.
If you look at Grossmoran, for example, in the north, going down through the Humber Valley and Corner Brook and then out through Port-au-Port Peninsula and Bay St. George, all of that area, and then taking in the fjords and islands of Burgeo and Ramia and Grey River and Francois, you've got a multi-stop international destination that would encourage visitors to travel further and to stay longer. And one of the things I think that we really have to look at is the fiscal reality. If you look at the state that the province is in financially, we're carrying a significant debt, and we simply cannot afford to build world-class tourism infrastructure alone. And we can't only rely on oil and gas and mining or aquaculture or even our own fishery to take us out of debt. They're extractive industries, and extractive industries eventually, come to an end.
Barbara, you've been at this for a couple of decades. Must feel a little bit like banging your head against a brick wall. I mean, we know what's going. Just to summarize, we know what the tug and the to and fro that's going on here. Whether it's the government wanting to protect areas, not wanting to give them up to environmental priority, if you will. First, for fear that they may lose out on an economic or business opportunity, whether it's aquaculture or any other restrictions on that water and the marine life and everything, like all the restrictions around that area. They're just scared to death that, something's going to come along. It's going to be developable. It's going to be a windfall. It could be big for business. And then lo and behold, we've signed this thing that blocks it off. And yet we all agree that our environment and our marine life is unlike any other. I mean, if you travel the world, you know it. That why people come here by the droves. So, it's this tug of war that'll forever be an issue, and it doesn't look like you've gained any. We've gained a whole lot of traction on that in the last, while this particular issue with the fjords and the Burin Peninsula, or south of Burgeo, continues. I mean, it's just a back and forth over the two sides. They're dug in, and it doesn't seem like anyone's willing to budge.
Well, and that's unfortunate because what we miss is the fact that, like I said previously.
The investments,
extractive industries don't last. And, tourism is an industry that can provide long-term, lifetime sustainability. But it depends on your ecological integrity. So you can't market the fjords and the islands and the marine ecosystems while leaving them unprotected. And so I think government has missed the boat on what types of industries can better benefit communities in this area, with the type of environment that we're living in. So to me, like, if Newfoundland Labrador really wants to be the tourism capital of Canada, we have to protect our coastlines. That's what people are coming to see. So if you don't protect those and you don't have leverage of federal investments to help build it, then how can you become the tourism capital of the world?
It's a tough one for government. You have to look at it with dollar figures in your mind and go, what's more valuable to the province? This particular area carved out and preserved for the beauty and for the tourism value. Or, a big company comes along and wants to, and they say aquaculture, so what they talk about is it's not an extractive, finite industry. It's aquaculture, so it's continually, supplying the food chain and that sort of thing. Look, you have the arguments, is there any, middle ground that can be found here in your mind? What would be middle ground in your definition, Barbara?
Well, I would hope that there'd be middle ground. I mean, there are multiple users of the water along this coast, obviously, whether it's, whether it's the fishery, or if it's aquaculture, or if it's commercial shipping, or if it's mining. Those things are happening. But the conversation that needs to be had, I think, is how we all live together and work things out so that you have conservation. I mean, I've often said in my presentations to aquaculture, if there's no conservation, there should be no aquaculture. They should go hand in hand. So the idea of coexistence is certainly something I think that the government would need to look at. But to downgrade or cut out altogether the idea of the tourism industry with what we have to offer, I think is detrimental both to government and to the communities in the area. And really, I mean, if you look at Grossmore National Park, I mean, they've really showed the world what the West Coast can be. And the Southwest Coast can be the next chapter of that, because we have the environment to do it. And that means continuing with the traditional way of living, continuing with your industries, but everyone working together. So coexistence and co-governance in that environment would be extremely important.
And Barbara, I'm not going to... Sorry, go ahead.
You can't call yourself a tourism capital of Canada while leaving your most valuable coastline unprotected and undesignated and dominated by extractive industry. I mean, that to me spells disaster. And
you said the key words there, like when I asked you about compromise or middle ground. You said working together. That's all fine as long as there's transparency on both sides and inclusion. Whether or not there are discussions,
absolutely.
Right? And even if it's an MOU that was in the works but was tossed out to, somewhere start again. We don't know really where. And Barbara, only because you mentioned it, I think 4 times, Grossmorn. Shout out to my dad, who, along with the former minister at the time in the early 70s, he and I have a picture in my house of himself, my father, and Jean Chrétien, who was the minister at the time, his counterpart, federal minister, on the top of Grossmorn Mountain. They were flown up there by a helicopter to do the formal signings and establishment of the park, the initial stages of it being designated as a national park, and so I hold that, and I make no qualms about throwing it out there and giving my dad a shout out this morning on that one.
Well, that's great, and hopefully you'll be able to see someone from this area standing on top of the mountain with the minister, because that's my hope.
There you go. That'd be great history repeating itself, because at the time it was all about the beauty and the natural pristineness of Gros Morne, and that's what it still should be. Barbara, thanks so much for the call. Keep this going. There's so many topics on my plate that I rely on people like yourself to give us a shout and make sure you keep it on the burner sometimes, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Barbara. Barbara Barter right
Bye-bye.
there. Okay, off to the break. Dave, a couple of minutes. My apologies. Right back after the break. Okay, welcome back to the program. Let's go right to line number one. And Mike Keogh, you're on the air.
Hey, Brian. Good morning.
Hi, Mike.
So nice to hear you on there. Can you hear me there?
Yes, I can, and I really appreciate that. Very kind of you. Thanks.
Good. I always enjoy your conversations. Brian, I was listening with interest to your last caller and her remarks about the South Coast and perhaps the damage being done to establishing a marine conservation area down there as a result of the province withdrawing from the current memorandum of understanding that had been put in place by the Liberals federally and provincially. I have some differences with her on it. I understand where she's coming from. I would love to see more parks in this province. We're beautiful. God created Newfoundland and Labrador. He or she, whatever your belief is, said, I know what, I need places for parks. I'm going to give them Newfoundland and Labrador because we're aesthetically beautiful. We have wonderful people, great coastlines. We have all of the ingredients for parks, and I would love to see it. I was around in the mid-'80s when a lot of this was taking place. I knew John Leon very personally.
Oh, the whale man, absolutely. Legend.
Yeah, I had the whale research and all that kind of rescuing whales, rescuing nets, and my wife lived just a couple of doors away from him, and I met him through work. I was a director with fisheries at that point.
Was that down around Marine Drive, that area?
No, it was actually up Mount Trail Road.
Okay, yeah.
That's a long time ago. Yeah.
Yes, sir. It was.
Up by the power stations up there. I also met your dad many times over the years in my role there. But anyway, I look back at some of the earlier calls to your station in Paddy's days, and the former mayor of Virgil, and I always loved speaking to him. He's a great speaker. And he would share things about what happened when, they lost the fishery down there. It was stripped away from them, the offshore that they had down there. They're really thrown into a really rough spot. And he worked for years, tirelessly trying to get things to go down there. As a matter of fact, John would love to have seen, a park down there. He certainly said that many times.
Sure.
But the town was promised a crab license, and that was scooted out from underneath them. A lot of things took place backward, things that weren't fair to the town of Burgeo at all. But back in those days, a park was talked about. There's no doubt about it. Now, Brian, I'm talking, 40 years ago? Is maybe in that, would it be that? Or 25, 26 now, back in the mid-'80s.
Yep.
So, yeah, sure. And there was absolutely nothing stopping Parks Canada from coming in at any point in time in trying to establish a park down in that area. Nothing. Nobody blocked it. Nobody was against it. Everybody loved to see it. But what's happened now in the last since 2023, we had this thing that Canada got involved in under UNESCO, the United Nations.
Right.
Remember? And
yes.
They had this group with Europeans, and the short term of it, we're going to say we're going to allocate 30% of ocean resources by 2030. And that's protected areas. They wanted those protected areas.
Right.
So they start this giant push since 2023. Parks Canada, was designated by Fisheries and Oceans Canada under this master plan. It's called the Marine Spatial Plan. It's part of UNESCO. This is not some small little thing. This is a massive thing. And it was to say, let's go out and designate areas where Canada can have its 30 by 30. And he came and said, oh, look at Newfoundland. We'll put one up north. We'll put one down in the south. Let's go up to Placentia Bay. Let's go up off the southern shore. So they were really hungry. The person heading it up for Parks Canada as a former employee or a former directing mind of the one of the animal rights groups. I forget the name of it now, but it was the same time of Thibault. So Thibault, the Minister of the Environment, a former member of Greenpeace, comes together, gets Parks Canada. Let's go to Newfoundland, and they show up in 2023. First time I see them bob up to the surface was at one of these COP meetings.
No pun intended.
I think it was the one. Yeah, I think the first one was in Paris, maybe one of the other ones. And Bernie Davis was the minister at the time. And Bernie was, and we're all about climate change issues and the environment. I've been active in that for years. And marine conservation, all about it. Bernie's big handshaking moment is with the former head and director, executive director of the International Fund for Animal Welfare. Now over there, you know what they did. Thank you for them. All the hatred and everything else to get a ban on our teal products throughout the world. Here's Bernie grasping hands, and they're over there in their capacity on climate change. They just got funded by Mr. Thibault, $5 million subsistence and seed money. Anyway, cut a long story short. They show up with the province. They signed this MOU with the province. Nobody really reads it, what it is. But they then establish a steering committee. And who's on steering committee? It's nobody other than the town of Burgos there. Some really good speakers down there, no doubt about it. And they got 2 Aboriginal groups, which is how Parks Canada is bringing these conservation areas into being in various places. They partner with Aboriginal groups, right?
Smart
move. The town of Burgeo. Yep, absolutely. And they go out and they say, well, let's do this big study. Let's do all these studies.
And I should say, Mike, smart move, but I shouldn't just say that as flippant. I mean, and, you know, a valuable, important, necessary move. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Not necessarily, because nobody else is, you know, all of a sudden they've also been openly designated to manage this conservation area. That's not hidden. That's there. Correct. That's the way it is. And so people are saying now, they're promising things like, well, they walk into Confederation and building and say, hi, we're the steering committee, we're here, we're doing this. When the Tories look at all of this, they say, hang on now, just a moment. You want to come in, you want to take huge swaths of coastline, you want to put it in as protected status, and you want to reallocate it away from government into these management teams who are going to be headed up by Aboriginal bands who understandably look after the wants and needs of Aboriginal bands. That's what they do. I heard Miss Brake on there one day on your program doing a masterful job.
Absolutely. They are the first. They are our First Nations, yeah.
Yeah, they're looking after their own interests. So what's the government of Canada got now? Government of Canada says, oh, we're going for 30 for 30, marine, spatial, UNESCO, all kinds of stuff. We got these, and they're not only down there, by the way, they're looking further up Placentia Bay, and they're looking up on the southern shore areas as well. And now we got these groups, and let's put them all together. And the government, and up in Ottawa, Mr. Small, Clifton Small, gets onto this and looks onto it. And then the province gets onto it and says, hey, guys, hang on. You want to take this whole area down there? You're promising, you're giving the impression there's going to be a national park. There's nothing to what you're saying. Anybody can say there's going to be a national park, but what really they're looking at is possibly a tertiary park, which is not a national park. They're talking about phenomenal growth in tourism. There might be some. But, you know, the grandson of the original fish plant owner, you know, where the original fish union got formed in Burgeo. Yeah. The
Great
grandson
stories.
of the original owners is going to come back and going to do up a summer home. He hasn't looked at it for years. But this sounds so good. He's going to come back and do up a summer home. Somebody over in England might buy a bed and breakfast over here. This is the type of thing. And somebody who are getting grants and subsidies, some groups in Newfoundland and Labrador are writing letters of support for Parks Canada. Brian, I'm not against conservation. I'm hugely in favor. I've been active in climate change for years. But I do not support reallocating the coastlines and things that are in there away from the control that we have now in the event something does happen. Yes, let's stop that poisoning aquaculture. I'm all for it. Totally agree. But we don't need to give away the resource to be able to do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of...
I understand.
Just going to say, there's a lot of pejorative language when we say giveaway. When we use those terms, Mike, no offense to anyone who uses them. I mean, they're colloquial. We all use them. There's terms that, can be a little bit more divisive than others. But, again...
help me understand that, Brian.
Well,
help me understand it. We're going to allocate
giveaway
control of that resource.
Yep. Giveaway. What is that? Well, giveaway. So not just using the term, but using the term and applying it to a broad swath. We know the devil is in the details of these things, Mike. So I get it. We have advocates on both sides of this, and you're one on one side, clearly. And I'm not saying just one side because, as you said, you have appreciation for the environment and the tourism aspects of all of this. But there are legitimate concerns about what areas we're talking about and who and why and what's the interest here and what's the connection. And look, as long as there's transparency and communication with everyone, which didn't happen with the MOU and the decision to scrap it, then we're going to have these issues. We're going to have you on talking about this. We're going to have Barbara on talking about it. And then we'll have a minister come on and try to use the right words. You said it, using good words, good speakers. Good speakers can do these sorts of things. You're a great communicator, and you're getting your point across as clear as day, and it's valid. But there are valid points on both sides. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Okay, but I'm going to sum up because I've taken a lot of your time.
That's okay.
I see this as a resource grab, a coastline grab,
sure.
And it's got two things. It's got two things driving it. Okay, first of all, Parks Canada is in here with a lot of money. They're not only this is one project. There are others, but they're in there with a lot of money, and they're making all kinds of big promises. What the government of Canada gets out of this is it meets the commitments under COP that Mr. Guilbeault and Mr. Trudeau gave over in Europe. And Canada looks great. But it also meets the commitments under reconciliation, and Canada does own massive reconciliation, but they call it reconciliation. So assigning this over to, and it sounds racist, but it is what it is. It's not. Over to the controlling interests of a couple of Aboriginal groups. It meets reconciliation as well. So Canada gets two great things out of it. What do we get? Maybe we'll be able to go out fishing like we have. Maybe we'll have the rights that we have down there now. Maybe we'll get some other things down there. So there's a bunch of maybes.
You're right.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, and you're right. We got to get to break. But maybe is better than never. And, as long as there is a maybe, and we can have a starting point whereby if they're going to go ahead and scrap the MOU, do it right this time.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's keep working on this.
God, the exclusionary.
This MOU.
Yeah.
Scrapping this MOU, in my opinion, was the right thing to do. But let's not roll over it. If you read the marine spatial agreements with Fisheries and Oceans Canada, and they're not going to quit. They're not going to go away. And the issue is not going to go away.
No, absolutely.
But this MOU should go away because as the way it's structured now, it's garbage.
Got it, Mike.
Anyway,
appreciate the call.
Really
appreciate it. Thanks. Don't be a stranger.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
All right, Dave, off to the break. Back with Tom Davis after the break. And welcome back to the program. Let's go right to line number one. And Dennis, you're on the air.
I found a silver wedding band, I believe,
at
the Walmart parking lot about 4 weeks ago, and I was trying to get hold of the owner, but I can't. So if I give you my number, could they call me?
Absolutely. Do you know who the owner is?
No, I do not. No.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought when you said trying to get hold of the owner. So when exactly did you find this again, and which Walmart parking lot are we talking about?
Okay, Walmart parking lot in Corner Brook. I think I found it about 6 weeks ago. Holy
cow. So you've been holding on to it that long?
Well, I checked at Walmart at Lost and Found to see if I could carry it back, but I just couldn't do it for some reason.
So describe it for me.
I tried to get the number.
Yeah. Well,
okay, it's a silver wedding ring, finger ring, right?
Yep.
And it might be a wedding band. It's a fair-size ring.
And you're in Corner Brook?
I'm in Pasadena.
Oh, you're in Pasadena. Okay. So RCMP detachment, maybe? Like any... I don't know. I'm just trying.
It's possible. I never thought about that.
You know, Dave just whispered in my ear. That's definitely a great, little. I mean, to cover all your bases anyway. I mean, people, might say RCMP got busy enough as it is, and that's true. But but no, somebody is listening. I'm really hoping. And if you have lost your silver wedding band or silver wedding ring, and you've been missing it for what, 6 weeks?
Yeah, a good 6 weeks anyway, yeah.
And you're out from, well, I mean, who knows where you're from, but if you were around, well, I mean, you know who you are if you're listening. Let's hope. Let's spread the word. Have you called before the show at all, or is this your first week?
I have not, boy.
Okay. No.
It's the first time I've called you.
No worries at all, but this is by far, I mean, the ears on this show, you can't put a number, can't quantify it.
No, I listen to you all the time, so.
Yeah, well, it's the best venue for it, hands down. So somebody... I would say knows somebody who knows somebody, and hopefully even the person himself is listening. So appreciate you taking the time to call. Silver wedding band, silver wedding ring lost or found was it on the ground in the parking lot?
In the parking lot in Corner Brook Walmart.
You were just, returning to your vehicle, or?
I just parked there, and when I opened the door, there was the ring.
There it was right there. But
on the ground.
That's, I mean, the odds of you noticing it and picking it up, holding on to it for 6 weeks, and now making a reach out to see if we can find who owned it, that's meant to be. I believe that, like, wholeheartedly, things for a reason. And the fact that it was right there as you opened your door, not under your car where you wouldn't see it, but right there.
No.
And an honest person like yourself is holding on to it, hoping to reunite the person with it. That's fantastic. Need more of you, because there'll be just as many there might be just as, I won't say just as many, but some people would be off to the trading store.
I know, yes.
To the hop shop or whatever.
It's not mine, but
that's it, right?
Somebody.
It's got something. Well, I mean, that people don't think about that. Some people don't. There's a dollar value on everything these days, especially if it's gold.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
So, but look, appreciate that. Anyone, we've got your number here. So, really hope we can reunite. I really hope we can reunite the owner of that, because, needless to say, wedding band, wedding ring. I saw one the other day where the guy dropped it as he was proposing, dropped it through this one of these suspension bridges. He was proposing to his fiance on the suspension bridge and dropped it.
Yeah.
And then went down through
and onto that first.
Oh my God! Anyway, they found it. They got people involved, and they went down with a metal detector and they found it. But those are irreplaceable items. So thanks. I really appreciate that.
Yes,
great service that you're doing.
No problem.
And if you do get a call and you get it reunited, by all means, give us a shout, or even tell them to give us a shout so we can hear the story of how it got back reunited.
Yep.
That's fantastic. Thanks so much for the call. Okay, good luck.
All right, buddy.
Thanks.
Have a good day.
You too. Let's see, just a couple of minutes to go before the news at the top of the hour. I did want to remind everyone here that there was a scheduled, Newfoundland Hydro had put out a scheduled, what they had planned to do was some high power testing on the LIL, the Labrador Island Link, today and Thursday. But today definitely cancelled, and they're saying it's unlikely to proceed on Thursday. So this was the high power testing of the link. It's just basically based on forecasts is why they're apparently putting it off for now. But it was planned for today and Thursday. That's been definitely canceled for today, and it looks like it's going to be postponed for Thursday. And this, of course, it's great that they're out in front of this and let us know, because we all know that there have been trips in the last little while that clearly they wouldn't have known about, or they would have been able to give us a heads up. And I've heard some concerns too, from the restaurant business. Specifically, I think Todd Perrin was on about, the number of interruptions and outages this time of year that can really eat into the restaurant business when they don't have any notice or anything like that. Can't prepare for it, like on Valentine's Day. Just imagine, you got a restaurant full of... Anyway, if Todd wants to get on and talk, I've heard him talking about how difficult it is for the restaurant business in the first place. But anyway, this hydro testing, not to go off on a tangent, but testing of the Lil has been cancelled for today. I can get in some more detail about that, the reasons that they were going to do it and all that. But all you need to know is it's not going ahead today. There won't be any testing, so no direct risk to the Lil and the power grid, and no chances of tripping for that reason anyway. And any more detail? I think we have something up on the VOCM website, of course, about this. So fill your boots. Let's go off to the news, and we'll be right back with Tom Davis. Thanks, Tom, for your patience. We'll be right back after the news.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
Welcome back to the program. Last hour for this Tuesday, March the 10th. Before we go to Tom Davis, I just want to quickly reiterate what Brian Medore mentioned. Anytime there's a state of emergency, we're going to repeat that. Town of Portugal Cove, St. Phillips, of course, has declared the state of emergency due to the fire that was there this morning, the Landings Pub and Eatery. Sadly, unfortunately, we don't know the final status of it yet, but that fire has been burning for about 4 hours now. So pretty hard situation down there, devastating for the business, of course, but also now they're advising, we know that firefighters are going door to door. First responders are telling people to leave, basically having to do with the debris that's coming from the fire, whether it's the embers and the smoke in the area. The smoke has been really thick. We heard from Richard Duggan earlier, who was down there, and it was just, there's nowhere really, even if it wasn't blowing your way, it was in the air, and then even worse if it was blowing over you or through you or by the houses that are all nestled into the rocks there, as Fred Hutton pointed out earlier as well. Anyway, evacuees are encouraged to go to the Rainbow Gully Road Recreation Centre up there on Rainbow Gully Road in St. Phillips to register up there if you are within that area that they're asking people to leave their homes. So I can only imagine it's the standard out of an abundance of caution, and especially for people who have these, more respiratory issues, especially as far as that smoke goes. So the evacuation itself applies to Hardings Hill from the Memorial right to the Ferry Dock, Boulder Lane, Bridget's Road, and Somerton's Lane. So if you're in that area, keep an eye out. You'll get a knock on the door and some advice, or at least be talking to your neighbors, and maybe head up to the rec center up on Rainbow Gully Road. Hopefully it won't take too long to get this cleared up and cleaned up down there, and then, of course, the recovery begins for the business. Ferries are also still tied up too, by the way. But emergency situations, emergency runs will happen if need be. Okay, let's go right to line number 2, and Tom Davis, you're on the air.
Good morning, Brian.
How are you?
Our hearts and prayers going out to the people down in Portugal, St. Phillips.
Absolutely.
I'm going to get back to that, but I've got a couple of city things I just want to get into, but I do want to get back to it as it relates to the upcoming fire season and everything else. But I want to start with some city stuff. We're doing neighborhood plans. It's been something we started over the last couple of years, and Central and Mundy Pond neighborhood plans. There's a virtual for those who couldn't get out to the in-person stuff. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow, 7 to 8 p.m., you can go on the Engage St. John's to get registered to be able to attend that. That's a Zoom thing.
Is it only Zoom, or is there any in-person?
The in-persons have all passed now.
Okay.
So we've gone through the process. So this is the Zooms. And so for Rennie's River Neighborhood Plan, Thursday night. So the Central and Mundy Pond Neighborhood Plan is Wednesday night, 7 to 8, and Rennie's River Neighborhood Plan is Thursday, 7 to 8. Encourage people to get on there. There's been really good engagement online through the Engage St. John's plan. Not everybody can get out, but there's been some great stuff in person as well. A little while ago, I believe it was you and I talked about the snow clearing equipment, and there was a question asked, where are we now versus 2020? And I said I'd ask the question, and they didn't have the information, but I did get the answer to this question. So comparing to the big snow event in 2020 that people call Snowmageddon, in 2020 we had 38 trucks, and in 2026 we have 38 trucks. However, the age of the vehicle, of all our equipment, is much younger. In 2020, it was 8.3 years old, and in 2026, it's 3 years old on average. We had 12 blowers in 2020. We now have 16 blowers. The age of the blowers in 2020, on average, was 5.75 years, and they're 3 years this year. Loaders, 45 blowers in 2020, loaders, 45 loaders in 2020, 46 loaders in 2026. So one more age of the vehicles, 10 years for loaders in 2020, 4 years for loaders in 2026.
Yeah, and so on that note, I mean, like, we just know February was brutal. I think the mayor told me $7 million, I think, was the last check on private contractors just to help with the snow clear of that time. And I think the mayor at the time told me that $7 million was just for, and it came from the pot, of course, the reserve fund for snow clearing. I think he said $7 million. That was comparable to what the cleanup and the cost of the cleanup for private contractors during Snowmageddon. So there was no doubt. We broke the record, right? February all-time snowfall in the province. So there was that. I also wondered, so, you know, we could talk about numbers and that sort of thing, but does the fact that we still have to pay that amount of money on private snow clearing, you know, speak to any lack of resources that the city has in-house?
Well, I'll go back to 2020 because that was the first time I ever called open line, was during that snowstorm. As a small business owner, I actually desperately needed to be open to be able to make payroll, and it was really real. And you mentioned Todd Pearn earlier, so Todd and I...
Yeah, I agree. I remember.
Yeah, you know, so, and I remember being out in my little truck plow trying to, on the Friday of the storm, trying to keep her open because there was birthday parties. I mean, it was just kind of, I guess, a combination of desperation and optimism, like a typical small business owner in Newfoundland and Labrador. And so I called in because after so many days, I couldn't understand, you know, the malls were all cleared out. I was cleared out. Everybody was cleared out. And we were still in a state of emergency that went on, in my opinion, longer than it should have. And one of the first questions I asked when I got elected was, where's the in case of emergency break glass book?
Yeah.
And I was basically told there really wasn't one. And I have pushed on it repeatedly, and some senior staff will get frustrated, and maybe they're hearing this and they're frustrated again. I can't believe he's saying this again. So, however, you know, for this event, there was a bunch of things that happened that were changes, i.e., the fact the 24-hour, the winter weather parking ban, which really made a big difference. Now, I will argue we should have more aggressively been dealing with vehicles that ignored those things, but that was a positive step. And then the contracting out, which I actually was calling for at the time. I do believe that we've got to get this right. We spent a lot of money, and we're still technically spending money on contracting. And I feel like this is real money. Like when we sit around the council table and we want to do a little bit more sidewalk snow clearing, or we want to put some sidewalks in, say, the Goulds, or we want to put more shared use paths or a tot lot, or, you know, all the myriad of other things we want to spend money on, maybe making Robin Hood Bay less smelly, and all this stuff costs money. Well, I'll tell you what, $7 million goes a long way to do a lot of things in this city. So we're going to feel this money. Although we can say it's coming out of the reserve fund. You know what? At the end of the day, everything's got to be paid. We need a reserve fund, obviously, and I don't know exactly where we are with it, but you know, without that, we could be in more trouble. Obviously, the city is not going to go bankrupt because we have reserves and we can borrow money short term. However, I do believe that once again we need to be calling for a break glass in case of emergency. DEFCON 2, or which for me is approaching a state of emergency. Either in a state of emergency, approaching a state of emergency. I know, and I'm hoping that we're going to start a process of reviewing this amongst our outside staff and amongst managers, and you know, maybe council will just be asking for that. But it's something I would like to see. This is a new reality, whether it's a hurricane or it's snowstorms or it's flooding. We have great emergency planning. We have staff that are devoted to emergency planning. But as that relates to the spending of the money, and it's a complicated equation. You could go out and buy all this new equipment and come up with all this stuff and never ever need it again. I mean, David Suzuki has said within 25 or 30 years there'll be no snow on the Avalon Peninsula. I mean, you know, I'd like to see that happen. But so it's very difficult. It's a difficult balance, and spending money proactively to avoid spending money in the future, you know, it can be problematic, but I know we're going to be having some discussions on this, and I hope it goes far and wide out into the senior staff, into the staff that are out doing the jobs, and you know, that's my big ask. That's what I'm hoping where we're going to be.
Up against the time here, I just wanted to ask you, and I had this chat with Mayor Breen about the whole issue of dumping snow in the harbour. Could have really cleaned up some things in a hurry. Eventually, the private contractors had their own spaces, which they're required to do. When you hire a private contractor, my understanding is the city, when you hire them, they have their space to dump. So whether it's a parking lot or another place that they're required to do it. Because driving all the way back and forth to Robin Hood Bay, the fuel cost let alone, then there's the maintenance on the trucks and the time it takes to do all that. How frustrating is it, the lead time before you ask the feds if we can dump in the harbour and when they get it? And that was a problem this time, was it not?
You know what? At the end of the day, there's a whole bunch of people in the world and in our province and country who are spending other people's money. And I would really love for everybody, including all of us, to have that basic realization that, like, my God, man, like, there's got to be one person at the federal government level who could have that conversation and say, yes, go ahead and do it.
But it's not like that, is it?
No, but you know what? We have the same challenge, and I don't like to paint everybody. We all have this problem, but I don't know what it is. Like, getting the adults in the room to talk to each other and having adults in the room to begin with, it's really frustrating. And all we hear is people throwing stones at each other. And I'm not trying to do it. I think it's more systemic. I actually, like, I listen to, the head of the teachers union. I listen to the nurses union. I listen to the allied health professionals.
The adversarial nature, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're all the adults in the room. You are the most powerful people in the room. The heads of organized labor in this province are the most powerful people in the room. Way more powerful than Tony Wakeham, no matter what anybody wants to believe. They are the adults in the room. Like, can we not get all the adults in the room? The world has changed. If you look at how much debt we have and climate change and all the challenges that we're all facing, and the problems with our children and the problems with our demographics, people wanting to work and people showing up to work. Like, these are all big challenges, but if the adults don't start acting like adults, we're going to lose it. And we're already really, everything is just on the precipice. And I just call on people to, act your age and don't do it because you get a paycheck. Do it because that's your purpose in life. That's all of us have to ask. What's our purpose in life? You have many purposes. I have purposes. Let's just get out and act like adults, and let's just turn this place around because it's got so much potential, full of beautiful people.
Here. I second that emotion. Tom Davis, Ward 4 Councillor, thanks a lot for your time.
Take care, everyone.
You too. Bye. All right. And Tom mentions there, I don't know, I can feel it too. There's definitely this feeling I don't know, the character of humanity is in a negative, just the negativity or the short fuses. And I mentioned this yesterday, the lack of patience, the lack of understanding, the lack of cooperation, and the more it's this way or the highway, or every man, woman, and child for themselves, and damn the torpedoes, and on it goes. It's, I'm not going to blame it on any one person, but yeah, I am. Trump. I'm sorry. But everything, the negativity and the adversarial nature that everything has to be. He talks about ending 8 wars. He started twice as many, has he not? And yesterday, the absolute contradiction in terms. I mean, I switched around to just about every major news organization who had reporters who were in the room with Trump yesterday during his scrum and an update on the Iran war. Just could not understand what he was saying. Simply put, the anchor would say, so what's your takeaway from that? I have no idea. Because it changed as he went. The war was complete, then there was still work to do. Then it's ending soon, then it's not ending this week. Then it's it makes you wonder, really. And, to be a fly on the wall in the room with just him and Hegseth, the Secretary of War, not the Secretary of Defense, anyway. I could rant and go on. We haven't really got into a lot of that, and it is the most important, really, global issue facing all of us right now, whether it's not just the gas prices, it's just the risks of what roads we're going down here. When the most powerful nation in the world is just flying by the seat of its pants and seems to be just making it up as they go along. My thoughts. I would love to hear yours. Dave, let's take that break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. Let's go right to line number 1. And Aaron, you're on the air.
Yes, how you doing today?
Good, sir. All things are considered.
Right on. No, I heard you mention there about going on about Trump there and all the state of the world and trouble he's causing, but I hear no mention of what Carney is doing to the state of the economy for Canada.
No, that's a fair one, too.
What do you think of that?
That's a fair one. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so why is it that Canadians, middle class, is paying close to 50% taxes in this country for immigrants that we don't need and don't want? Why is that?
Well, when you say we, who do you mean? We don't need and we don't want.
Collectively, Canada do not need the immigration that we do currently have. We do not need it because it's costing taxpayers an exorbitant amount of money, for one, that we cannot afford. Cost of living is through the roof, and this guy Carney up in Ottawa, Liberal, is screwing Canada over majorly. And everybody is thinking it, everybody knows it, including probably yourself, and nobody is saying anything about it. And I do not understand why people think Trump is the big bad boogeyman when you got this idiot Carney going around the world spending our pension money, trying to get immigrants to come in here, and we got nothing against the people, but we cannot afford in this day and age to save the world. You know what I'm getting at?
Generally, look, speaking for myself, and you said me personally, I don't believe that. The pejorative statements you just made. I mean, look, for starters, they cut back the numbers on immigration because they saw that we couldn't keep up with it financially and that it was being an issue. That just came a couple of years ago, and that reduced the number of immigrants that all parts of the country would be seen. But then, of course, Newfoundland and Labrador felt left out because, we benefit as much as anyone. I mean, this isn't an immigrant. Look, we're all immigrants. Let's get that straight from a starting point. At which point did we all of a sudden decide no one else can come here from the other side of the pond?
I didn't say that. I'm saying at this current rate that we're going at, it's unprecedented rate of immigration is not fair to the people that's already here.
And it has been reined in, but I'm just wondering specifically,
not reined in enough. He's going over there to India and given $100 million for students to come over here and study. What about the people that's here and my son that's coming up, my two sons that's coming up through the school system and graduate? My older son just graduated last year. Now he's going to have to go out into the post-secondary education and get student loans and pay for all of this himself. Why should we be giving money to other countries when we got lots of people here that can go to school and pay for their education first, not other people from other countries? It do not make sense, sir. It do not make logical sense to do that. Does not make sense when you got healthy young people, smart, educated people that can go into post-secondary education and got to struggle when they come out to pay off their debts. And then you got this idiot Carney forgetting about the people of Canada pretty much and going over and giving millions and millions of my tax dollars and your tax dollars and everybody's tax dollars, not only mine, but everybody's collectively, their tax dollars is being funneled to other countries for no reason. What is the reason that you can't pay for the people's education that is here now and willing and ready and capable and got the smarts and the possibility is endless for this country, but the Liberal Carney government can't get control of their overspending of government money. It's not the government money, it's my money. It's your money. It's everybody's money, and they can't control it because they're just out of touch with Canada altogether. It's just insane. The liberal mentality that this country got and is under control by that liberal idiot up there in Ottawa.
I don't think...
Because I'm telling you right now,
Aaron,
if the shoe was on the other foot and Carney was in my shoes or anybody else's shoes, he'd have the same viewpoint as I got. Right? Yep. And you knows it, and everybody knows it.
No, I wouldn't lump.
I'm
sorry, but don't lump me into that.
The big bad boogeyman liberal government is going to come after him.
Aaron, you don't speak.
That's not the case.
You don't speak for me, so I just want to say when you ask me, but you continue and you say, including you, meaning me. No, not me. Just for clarity, I don't agree with everything you're saying, and I don't agree with everybody. I have my own thoughts. First of all, I would remove the mean language from any of these conversations. Once we go down the road of calling people idiots, that's the first problem in my book. These kind of language.
I'm the problem now.
No, I didn't say you, did I? I didn't say you.
Well,
I said once we talk about Aaron, if you're going to, can you let me talk? Just for a second.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Just for a sec. Just to be polite, right? Because one thing I want to see on this show, whoever takes it over, is just to remove the meanness, the impoliteness. Sometimes, we get off a little bit. There's some swearing. We rein people in. But calling people idiots and all this kind of thing doesn't get us anywhere. I can appreciate you don't like the current leader of Canada. You don't like Carney. I get it. To call him a liberal, I don't think it matters these days. You call him a liberal, you call him a Tory. Some of the policies could be better labeled as Tory policies, if you ask me. The other thing I would say is, look, as far as immigration goes, there are sectors of all our society that we all work in, that we all use, that are all taken up by workers of all stripes, all colors, all countries, and many of the good people that we have do go through school and graduate and go elsewhere. And that leaves us with a vacuum. And what do we fill that with? People don't want to work here. Some people don't want to work here. We've got a great IT system that's coming up. We've got all kinds of industries on the cusp of being, well, maybe not so much green hydrogen anymore, but everything else that's going on right now, whether you look at Beta Nord, whether you look at the potential for Churchill Falls, we have lots of room here for skilled people. But some of them don't want to stay, Aaron, either. They want to leave, and that leaves us with gaps. And immigration fills those gaps. And a lot of times it's legitimately filled with those gaps. And everything costs money. So I just wanted to have that little say, and I'll give you a minute to wrap up.
Yes. So, okay. So to that point, why do they want to leave? Why are people leaving? I know the reason why is because they're taxed to death and they can't hardly afford to live here. For one thing, getting back to Carney and his roadblocks and putting Canada under, the economy under, he's roadblocking the economy because he's blocking all the oil from Western Canada from doing anything for this country. There should be mega project after mega project on the go in this country. There's no reason not to, because the energy markets dictate what we need. Right now, we need oil, we need gas, and there's no green energy project can fill that gap. And anybody who thinks that is absolutely out of their minds right now.
Aaron,
because
quick question.
We need oil, we need gas, we need it now. We need these projects on the go. Western Canada and Newfoundland. I know that they just announced a project in Newfoundland and all of this, but why have roadblocks for LNG, natural gas, all this stuff? Wind energy is not going to do one thing for Canada, nothing.
Yeah, it's not happening tomorrow either.
And unreliable source of energy we got.
Yep, and it's not happening tomorrow either. Listen, quick question. Was Carney an idiot to remove that $1 billion tax, the United Nations tax for offshore development in beyond the 200-mile limit?
Well, that's one good step in the right direction.
All right, that's all I wanted.
That's one step in the right direction.
That's all I wanted to get out of you.
What about all the other steps? What about all the other
I agree. Aaron, couldn't
Right?
agree more, but let's call a spade and give credit where credit's due. I got to get going. Listen, I love the chat. Call anytime.
Thanks for your time. I definitely will call back and
awesome. It's good chat.
Voice my opinions on the economy and what the Liberals' degrading of the economy is doing. Thank you very much.
Okay, I do appreciate it. Thanks very much. All right, Dave, sorry about that. Off to the break. Couple of callers to fill up the rest of the half hour, including you, if you so choose, right after the break.
The Tim Power Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
And welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 2. And Ricky, you're on the air.
Good morning, Brian. How are you this morning, sir?
Good, thanks very much. Yourself?
I'm not bad at all, sir. Great weather, great community to live in, great province, a wonderful country. I sympathize with you with the last caller. There's such a word as bullying, but that's all I'm going to say about that right now.
No, but listen, that is this venue, right? And we'll take it as long as we can keep it somewhat civil. And I'm not going to let things get to the point where, the yelling and screaming. I'm like, if you can't, keep the vitriol to a little bit of a minimum. I mean, make your point, and you can make it fervently. But there's no need to get on with there's no need to get on with some of the stuff. Nothing against Aaron. I applaud him. Look, the responses, and it's very polarizing issues that he's discussing, and we got to be able to discuss them because they're also very important. So fire away.
That's it. The reason I called you, there's a couple of things, and I'll just form my opinion and give you my opinion. And first one is I looked at a news brief last night and this morning. I went into it again, and it was of Mr. Wakeham, Tony Wakeham, way back when I think it was around 2017, but today it could be wrong, and I apologize if it is. When the price of the barrel of oil was on the up and up and up.
I know where you're going with this. Go for it.
And he said about if we're satisfied with the taxes we're receiving from a barrel of oil, and I'll use a number off the top of my head, Brian, for the sake of arguing, let's say $70. If the province is satisfied with taxes from gas and oil and everything else at $70 a barrel, and right now it's 100 plus.
I think it's back to about 90 today, and that's only because Trump said yesterday, just before the markets closed, that we're going to end it soon.
Yeah, but anyway, but that's But anyway, but you know where I'm going to. I'd like for Mr. Wakeham, our Premier Wakeham, sit down and instead of badgering and being like little kids in the toy shop with what's going on in our house and there, put his money where his mouth is. That's the first thing, sir.
Yeah, and I'll just briefly comment that the line at the time, of course, and we're about $25 over what we projected in the fiscal update just before Christmas. So $66 a barrel is what we had pegged our estimates on. It did pop over 100 yesterday. There are still estimates that say it could go to 140 depending on the length of the war. But back to about 90 now, which means they're raking it in. There's a bit of a windfall going on. We don't know how long it'll last. Yeah, but we don't know how long it'll last. And the last quote I saw from Mr. Wakeham when he was in opposition was telling former Premier Fury, no, we can't control the price, but we can control the taxes. So you're right.
Exactly, sir.
100%. Money where his mouth is. Go for it.
Yeah. And the next one, sir, and I got two things, and I appreciate it. I know you're stuck for time, but I'll get to the point.
Go for it.
The next one, sir, and again, I'm not being disrespectful.
Nope.
But Mr. Wakeham and Mr. Hogan are like two kids in a candy store arguing over Mr. Whalen. So here's my suggestion. I don't know, and I don't think the general public of Newfoundland and Labrador knows where the salary for Mr. Whalen is coming from. One says it's here, one says it's there. So let's not argue and fight anymore, and let's not sound like kids in the candy stores fighting over the last licorice. Let's go to the Author General, who knows where the money is coming from, and let her come on your show, sir, and NTV and CBC, if you don't mind me mentioning competition.
No.
And tell us, the people of this province, where Mr. Whalen's salary is coming from.
Yeah, on that one, I think whoever it is was going to get that amount of money. And it all comes from government. And I think if you could trace it directly to MCP, they would have a real problem. But my issue with this, it's the bigger issue. First of all, are we really going to spend this much time on this? I mean, Wakeham, as far as I'm concerned, the government would love to continue beating this against the media at the scrum after question period, because look at all the other stuff they don't want to talk about. So
exactly. What are they hiding?
Oh, my God. Like a salary for one person. This could go on. This could happen. This is not unique to this government. The Liberals have done it. The only people who haven't done it are the NDP, because they've never held the seat of power, and that always gives them an advantage in an election campaign. But beyond that, we should be talking, if you want to talk more about the important issue here with the Dr. Whalen's salary and his name as an advisor, which we now learned just yesterday, just in an offhand comment, that he was actually part of the transition team. And again, the Premier has said he's a bigger Tory than he is. He's been a longer Tory, backroom organizer for the Tory party forever. So nothing against that either. It's all about the qualifications.
No, to each his own, sir.
But my issue is the transparency. I've heard Tony Wakeham mention Ed, and I said it again ad nauseum too much today, over and over and over about the importance of transparency, about truth, about telling it like it is. Get out in front of it. Do communications learn anything from anyone else? I mean, all they had to do was come out and announce this, and it never would have taken a breath of air out of the House of Assembly. So either they don't mind it being this political football right now, and they're perfectly content because they don't have to answer questions about the MOU, because this was the top story on most TV news last night. This foolishness.
It was.
And I'm sorry, it's foolishness in the sense, I'm not saying $250,000 salary is foolishness. I'm saying the issue is that we don't even really have all the information about, and we are being force-fed it at the government's speed, if you will, as long as they want us to have it. And they're only telling us what they want to tell us, and they're perfectly happy to beat it around. But it's the transparency. All they had to do, if there's nothing wrong with this, if it's all above board, why not just come out and say, oh, this is going to cause a stink. Here's who we hired, and here's why we hired him. But they can't do that because he's such a big Tory that it's hard to justify. And that's always going to follow him around.
But the thing, Brian, is this. He might be a big Tory, but they brought back a bigger one in Ross Wiseman.
Well, again, that's
I'm not a political straight person. I vote for the man or the lady.
Me too.
Right? Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, you take Ross Wiseman.
Look, it's the same thing. Every government has done it. They come in, they clean house, they bring in their own. That's, only makes sense, really. Yeah. I mean, they want to be aligned with their own views and their own mandates, right? That makes sense. But just get out in front of it and tell people.
What you're saying.
Yeah.
Just be upfront, be honest. Yeah. Don't be playing the people of this province for fools.
Yeah, like why wait till it breaks into media and then it's whole a big hullabaloo in the House, and we're going to lead off question period when we got people struggling to make ends meet. And they're going to...
One more thing, okay? I apologize for cutting you off, sir.
No.
One more thing I'd like to bring up, sir, and again, I'm far from a racist. I think everybody should have the same opportunity in life as what my mother and father provided for me, my sisters and my brother. In Canada... Carney is, and I like Carney. Contrary to what Sheldon says, I think the economy of Canada, if half of what Carney is trying to accomplish, we're going to have some economy. So you have to look at the bigger picture, not the smaller one. And like I told you earlier, sir, I don't wear political stripes. I believe in a person. I wouldn't vote for Trudeau tomorrow, but I believe in Carney in this country. But the point I'm getting at is this one, why I brought up Canada. We, Canada, and the civilized world watched for 4 years as Russia destroyed Ukraine. We supported them monetarily, but there was never nobody fired a gun in the civilized world to help Ukraine. Now, all of a sudden, people are wondering, should they go into the Middle East and support some idiot, and I apologize for using that word, you don't like that. So you're supporting the so-called leader of the United States. How would we look? What kind of hypocrites would Canada, the civilized world, the European Union, and NATO look like if we did that?
Yeah, and Carney's getting a bit of a roasting over what some are saying is his murky position on all of this. You got to put yourself in his shoes. I
understand that, sir.
It's the whole poke the bear thing, and he's sticking to the line of we got to follow international rule, which is true.
Yeah,
and
it's true.
And it's hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, isn't it? When he says that,
But the thing is, go ahead, sir. I apologize.
No, don't. This is your call. You go ahead. Sorry.
But we can't bend over to pressure tactics from Donald Trump. What he has said and done to Canada in the last year and a half is and I support Prime Minister Carney 100%. I honestly do. But we can't bend over to that man. The world can't bend over to Donald Trump.
No, you're right. And listen, our Prime Minister went on the big trip, went to India and Korea and Australia. In Australia, he received a hero's welcome. I mean, the interviews with the parliamentarians in Australia, Carney's a bit of a rock star on the world scene because he did manage to stand up to Trump. And in many people's eyes, whether it was to sit down in the Oval Office or whether it's the back and forth over the bridge, and all the rest of it in Greenland, he's walked the line. And I'm not sure any of us could walk it any better right now because of the unpredictability of the man in the White House. So the fact that he's able to do that, and it doesn't look like we've been, Trump is, look, the longer he doesn't talk about us, the longer he doesn't mention 51st state and all that kind of stuff, the better off we are. And that's the trick. And that's the trick right now. So Carney's gotten a bit of a reputation for being able to do what you're saying. And he's being looked, and that's why it's gained a little bit of traction. That's why it's gaining the traction, even if it is a tough line to walk.
And I mean, he's an educated man. you look at the banking system in Canada, what he took us through, people have short memories.
That's where he gets his reputation, yeah.
Exactly, sir. And I think he can do wonderful things for this country if given the chance. In regards to the pipeline, like a previous caller mentioned, he didn't stop the pipeline. It has to be approved by Aboriginal people.
Yeah, and a lot of others.
Their lands.
And Ricky,
and that's right there.
Yeah,
let's call a spade a spade. Carney is not stopping growth of this country. Carney is not stopping the environment. Carney is not stopping economical development in this country. It's the people who are stopping it.
Ricky, I got to get off to the break. I really appreciate the call. Don't be a stranger. I'll be here the rest of the week, maybe even next week. Who knows?
Take care, buddy. Nice talking to you.
You too. Really great chat. Take care.
Yeah, bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, Ricky. Let's see. Dave, one break left, and then a couple of callers. We'll squeeze them in before noon, right after the break. Come back to the program. Quick email, just wondering, and I was wondering this too because I passed by it the other day. I got an emailer asking if there's going to be any effort to remove an abandoned car from the ditch there near the bridge at Pitts Memorial Drive. It's just above the dry dock. I've seen it on the right side heading towards downtown. Yeah, it's a good question. I didn't know how long it was there. The emailer says it's been there since December 30th. That's a while. So time to get it removed. I couldn't agree more. It becomes a distraction too. You see some cars sometimes are left, with the police tape around it, about the side of the road because it may not be an urgent thing for people, but if it's causing any kind of a distraction or safety hazard, good thing to get it rid of. So thanks for that, Brian. Appreciate it. Let's just, go right to, sorry, Dave, did you say 3 or 4? Going to Sheila. Sheila, you're on the air.
Okay. Hello?
Hi.
Hi, Brian. I'd like to announce that St. James United Church on Elizabeth Avenue, 330 Elizabeth Avenue, is having a fundraiser on St. Patrick's Day, and we have a concert featuring Hamilton Sound and Bud Davidge, and it's on Sunday, March the 15th at 2 p.m. And tickets can be picked up at the church or by calling 709-722-1881. And the office hours there are Tuesday to Friday, 8:30 to 1:30 p.m.
And where can you get tickets?
You can get them. You can buy them at the church, St. James United Church on 330 Elizabeth Avenue, and it's up there just off Anderson Avenue.
Right.
And it's almost up the Freshwater Road, right? And the office hours are Tuesday to Friday, 8:30 to 1:30 p.m. And you can call if you want to call. It's 722-1881. And you can buy a ticket at the door, or you can book one and pick it up at the door, or you can just buy it at the door too, because there's always a few.
That's what I was wondering. Can you just pick it up at the church, or can you call ahead and have it?
No, a lot of people with this weather want to see if it's going to be a fine day or something.
That's right. Wait till the last minute.
Right, yeah. Well, this is it. But it's a fundraiser for the church. All the money goes to the church, right?
Fantastic.
And, by the way, and the tickets are $35 each, right?
Fantastic. $35 each. St. Patrick's Day concert for the St. James United Church, 330 Elizabeth Avenue. And, this is on Sunday the 15th, not actually St. Patty's Day. So this Sunday coming.
No, it's just that it's so close to it, where it's making it a Patrick's Day one.
And you'll hook the legend. You hooked the legend, Bud Davidge.
Politics, anyway.
You hooked the legend, Bud Davidge should bring him in for you.
Yes, that's what everybody's
And Hamilton
thinking.
Sound.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they had a concert, I think, at the Rooms the other day, and some of the people went to see what it's like, and they loved it. They said they can't wait for the next one, right?
Yep. No, that's fantastic.
Anyway, especially if we have good weather. It'd be great.
Well,
And by the way, you're doing a great job, and I'm glad you're you're looking after the ones that annoy me too. Right?
Well, it's funny because it's all relative, isn't it? I'm looking at some emails here, and I don't have time to get into all of them, but I have one that, just to give you an idea, and they're clearly unrelated emails. There are two different ones came in like a few minutes apart. One, talks about, I can't believe you're calling, someone's calling Trump an idiot and Carney smart, and the other one is the exact, the other one is the exact same opposite, right? So it just goes to show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I work with immigrants, and our church, we have everyone up there from all over, everywhere. And I love everybody because we're all God's children, right?
Excellent.
And it doesn't matter what they are to me, but I have been working with people from Iran, and they're the most wonderful people I have ever met. And they're not on government assistance. They came here as immigrants, not as refugees.
Yep.
And they're working here, and because they can't use what they have to work easily, they have to have 2 jobs. And I've been teaching them English from time to time, but now they had a good command of it before they came. But now they've become my friends, and they're part of my household and my family. And I happen to live alone, so they could come to my house because I couldn't get to them. So when I couldn't get to her, I kept writing to her through email, and she speaks English perfectly, and she's a wonderful person. And now my son I live alone, so my son was away this weekend, and she even called to see how I was, and in midst of worrying about if her family was safe, but she did find out that they are all safe there, and they're just wonderful people, and all she wanted to know was, did I want something?
Yeah.
And they would come and get me anything. So, immigrants, you can't place them. I have empathy for everybody, and I can feel when somebody comes as an immigrant and they don't know anyone, and I'm the first one out. If I know what they're there, I'm there. And I met immigrants years ago, and we spent 52 Christmases together.
Yep.
This family, now they both have died since, but we had great times together, and we were the first ones they knew when they came here. One was from England, and the other one was from Germany.
There you go, Sheila.
And,
only because I'm right up to 12
right,
noon.
Okay.
I appreciate the call, but I will say I have all the patience in the world and the understanding for the immigrants that come here, because when you think about the adjustment,
I know you do, and I certainly do too.
Like
okay.
where they're coming.
All right, my love. Nice talking to you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. You too.
Bye-bye.
When you think about where they're coming from, what they've come through, and then the adjustments they have to make in a new world and everything else that there's up against, a little bit of patience and understanding goes a long way. And that's just a minor part of it. Anyway, thanks for a great show today, Dave. Thanks for all the work behind the glass there, buddy. Liam Hickey and Team Canada around 1:30 this afternoon against Czechia. That'll be a bigger test. Maybe we'll get to hear the Alan Doyle 1, 2, 3, 4 song another 14 times today, like we did yesterday when they beat the Japanese 14-0. Anyway, go get him, fella. And thanks for listening, everyone. Drive safely. Arrive alive. VOCM cares.